O heavenly King, Comforter, Spirit of Truth, who art everywhere present and fillest all things, treasury of blessings and giver of life, come and dwell within us, cleanse us of all stain, and save our souls, O gracious one. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Michael Lofton Show on Reason and Theology. Cardinal Fernandez, the head of the dicastery for the doctrine of the faith, is being threatened by his critics. This is something that you likely haven't heard about, even though it's been out for almost a week now. It's been public information available to all, but it's certainly not something that we have heard reported, oddly enough. And so I want to talk about that today. But before we do, let me remind you, hit that subscribe button. Help me grow Reason and Theology so I can reach more people with the content that you appreciate here at RNT. And by the way, hit the like button while you're at it. Well, his eminence is being threatened by his critics, and I think it's interesting because if this had been on the other side, perhaps if it had been a threat made against Mueller, or Cardinal Sarah, Cardinal Zen, Bishop Schneider, Bishop Strickland, we would never hear the end of it. And you know what? Rightly so, because there shouldn't be threats made against these men. And so I stand with anybody who would call that out, even if it were in reference to some of these critics of Cardinal Fernandez and the papal magisterium. But being that, having said that, I will simply note that there is a disproportionate response, I would say, because we haven't heard a word about this. I mean, have you heard any of the media guys out there, any of the content creators that are, producing Catholic content? Have you heard them say a word about this? No. And yet this has been available since the 11th of this month. But most are silent about it. However, it does coincide with the recent attack, the most recent one, made against Cardinal Fernandez, and I want to point that out. Let's go through the interview where Cardinal Fernandez goes over this. It's something that was just kind of mentioned in passing. I mean, the interview was about a number of things going on in the Catholic Church, and the person asks him, hey, are you concerned about threats and things like that? And then he addresses this issue, but it's kind of in passing. So we're going to take a look at the whole interview. It's not very long. I'm going to share my screen and let's go over it together. Okay, so he's asked about the most recent document. Now, this was in another language, the interview. So this is automatically translated by my browser. So bear with the translation. Okay, he's asked, Your Eminence, can you explain this document to us? Talking about Fiducia Supplicans. He says it's about rediscovering another way of being a priest beyond the liturgical rites which have their beauty, but which are unable to express or contain all the concrete reality of the people. The declaration reminds us that there is also a spontaneous apostolic life alongside or along the sidewalks among the people where everyone carries the weight of their life as they can and sometimes needs a gesture of love and closeness from Mother Church. My experience in Latin America, and especially that of Pope Francis, was full of these moments. The declaration says that in addition to liturgical blessings, which follow a formal rite and which require various conditions in order not to go against the will of God, there is also another type of blessing which we can call spontaneous or pastoral, which are given only because people come closer to ask for God's strength to move forward in this life. This type of blessing in the Pope's mind does not require any perfection. In what sense is the origin of the declaration evangelical? Well, he says he invites all the faithful to trust in God's help, not only to move forward, but also to respond better to his will. That's why blessing is sought. And for priests, it is evangelical because it urges them to reflect in their attitudes those of Jesus in front of people, welcoming and embracing. If it is an irregular couple making a prayer for the two people asking for health, peace, protection, is even evangelical. And then a sign of the cross on the forehead of each of the two That too is evangelical. The priest can also give them some advice. Try to be faithful to the gospel, to respond better to the will of the Lord. The blessing is always the opportunity to announce Christ, his infinite tenderness. I can't find any arguments to say that these things are not evangelical. It continues, how do you respond to those who claim that blessing a gay couple is a sacrilegious act, a blasphemy? He says blessing, in the sense of pastoral, non liturgical blessings, could be neither sacrilegious nor blasphemous, because it has been made clear that they do not sanction, qualify, authorize, or recognize anything. So, in other words, this is not an approbation of their lifestyle. It's not a blessing of the relationship or the union. They are independent of the situation of the individuals or two people or groups who come to ask for it. Perhaps this point needs to be insisted upon. I'll say, I certainly think it does, for the sake of avoiding any kind of confusion. For me, however, a sacrilege or blasphemy would be to receive communion with hatred in the heart, or to accept that a human being is imprisoned or killed just because of his sexual orientation, or to live in peace with God while others suffer to death. Oh, oh, oh. That's a rebuke of some of the critics. Not all, not all. Obviously, that doesn't describe everybody. Can't paint with a broad brush here. But that does describe some of the critics. Wow. It's interesting because some of these people do receive Holy Communion while threatening Cardinal Fernandez, while attempting to smear his name, engaging in detraction, gossip, bearing false witness, slander. Mm, mm. Okay, he says these attitudes are a serious offense to the God of love. They are blasphemous. He's right about that. Wow. As I've pointed out several times, some of us Catholics tend to be very preoccupied with the sexual sins of other people while ignoring our own sins. Sound familiar, right? Sound like a certain group in the New Testament? Okay. Does the declaration change the doctrine of marriage? He says, not at all. And he says it to the point of exhaustion, to the point of becoming boring. Does the blessing legitimize homosexuality? He says, not even. And he says it so explicitly that anyone can understand it. So, everybody who is out there saying, hey, this legitimizes gay marriage, this legitimizes the sin of homosexuality, homosexual acts. It's comical how people just don't understand what the document says when it's so vividly clear that it is not an approbation of the sin. It's abundantly clear. And he points that out. It's so explicit that anyone can understand it. Anyone of good will, I'll qualify that. He doesn't actually, qualify, but I'll qualify. Look at this. Another person creating a fake Michael Lofton account and then trolling me here. Michael Lofton is a modern day Judas, a sophist who, in exchange for money, promotes the disordered and unnatural LGBTQ agenda to poison the minds of Catholics. Another person who bears false witness. Everybody, please pray for this confused soul who is currently doing the work of Satan when he bears false witness like that. It's sad because, what sacred scripture emphatically notes, slanderers and liars are listed right there next to those who engage in homosexual acts. And what is their destiny? The lake of fire, eternity in the lake of fire. So pray for this person so that they're converted and they begin to speak the truth rather than doing the work of Satan by bearing false witness. Now, let's move forward. Okay, so he says, why did you indicate the duration of 10 to 15 seconds of the blessing? He says that statement seems like a catechesis for teenagers. I understand, but some since wrote that they did not concretely understand how these pastoral blessings should take place. We thought it was necessary to provide a particularly clear example so as not to leave any doubts. And one of the characteristics of the non ritual simplicity of these blessings is their duration. I knew they would make fun of us for this detail of the 15 seconds, but I took the risk to make it more evident that these blessings, the world does not, with these blessings, the world does not fall. Okay. If the church, or I'm sorry, in the church, there are also those who rejoiced. And as written in the introduction to the declaration, the new indications take into consideration several questions received by this dicastery. What does this attention mean for LGBT world? Let's see here. He says, look, the document does not defend the gay lobbies, nor the manifestation of gay pride. Nothing like that. Ooh, I think Father James Martin's going to be upset, right? Interesting. Nothing like that. Instead, think of many believers who suffer from feeling outside the church, from not being able to receive any gesture of paternal closeness. When a couple makes a pilgrimage and arrives at their beloved church, they receive a blessing there, even knowing that it is not an absolution. It is like a caress from God, like a breath of fresh air that the church gives to the two pilgrims. Why not? Now, here they ask them about, the threats and stuff like that. Um, the interviewer asks, are you worried about divisions and controversies in the church? The answer is only when there is violence or the need to discredit the other. I received threatening messages 3 times. Quote, we will destroy you. Now listen to this. This is not in the context of merely destroying his reputation. It's in the context of violence and destroying his reputation. Both violence or the need to discredit the other. I received threatening messages 3 times. We will destroy you. Feeling hatred is not nice, especially because there are no such terrible elements that justify this harshness. However, I manage. The problem is that the unity and harmony of the church are being damaged. In any case, it's not that these documents cause divisions. They simply make them emerge. They bring sincerity. What is he saying here? He's saying this. It's not the document that causes confusion. And that's what I've been saying all along. What these things are doing is they're bringing out the people who are the detractors and slanderers and the ones who cause the confusion, the ones who twist the words. It just simply brings that group out and brings them into the forefront for all to see. So again, it's not the document that causes confusion. It's the critics who are causing the confusion. The same critics who threaten him and say, we will destroy you. Now, I want to point this out because some of y'all may not be aware. This most recent effort to discredit the cardinal as a way to undermine the magisterial document of Fiducia Supplicans, they tried to dig up a 25-year-old book of his to smear his name. And it was an orchestrated effort. A lot of the critics were simultaneously sent a copy of this book in an orchestrated effort to attack him. And they were even told, hey, don't say anything just yet. Wait until this day. And when that day came, the critics all attacked them all at the same time. I'm not making this up because the critics themselves have admitted this. So I'll show that to you here in a moment. But the same group that is behind the we will destroy you is likely the same group that is attempting to smear his name and discredit him. And I want to say, if you're participating in that and you're supporting those who participate in that, just know what you're really buying into. You're buying into the group that is deliberately trying to threaten this guy, not only with his reputation, but even violence. I'm not saying all of the critics have that intention. What I'm saying is many of the critics who participated in the smear campaign are assisting those who do have that intention. That's what I'm saying. Look at this. Here's a person just simply saying that they received this email, right? How was this not previously public? A lot of us got emailed a PDF just last night. Seems like someone has it out for Tucho or Tuco. I'm not sure how they pronounce it. That's his nickname, though. Not saying this shouldn't be out there, but the timing is interesting. Look at this other one. And there's many others from the set of Acontis, Father David Nix. Someone emailed me a PDF to this book last night. I read one page and then I deleted it. It is so perverse that I decided I couldn't even send it to the traditional Catholic news outlets. You see, they're being sent the stuff. You'll note, by the way, I wasn't sent a copy. They didn't send it to me. I didn't get the email. So, you know, I feel left out. I feel left out. Come on, y'all. Those of you who are behind this smear campaign, come on. Hey, why didn't I get included? Why did you want to send me a copy of the email? Huh. Interesting. Maybe there's some of the same people who attempt to smear my name. I don't know. They decided to leave me out on this one. Okay. Well, well, there's this. And then there's even some interesting comments from Taylor Marshall. He was another one who was sent this, and he was told, hey, no, don't say anything until this day. And that's what they did. You'll notice they all came out at the exact same time on the exact same morning and attempted to smear his name. And it didn't work. So guess what they attempted to do after that? Watch this one. Look at this. When that didn't work, here's what they resort to. Archbishop Vigano. Swiss guards should arrest Bergoglio and Fernandez, expel them from the Vatican. They were hoping that Fernandez would resign, that Pope Francis would force him out. And when that didn't work, then they just amp it up and say, oh, well, they just need to be arrested by the Swiss guards. It's pretty comical how the critics just don't seem to be able to come to terms with reality and with the fact that they literally are playing the part of the Pharisees who crucified Jesus. It's interesting. I mean, speaking of which, I mean, I'll show you something that is kind of along those lines. If I can find it here. Yeah, here it is. Look at this. It's interesting how many parallels there are. Let me show you my screen. Jesus says he has had 5 husbands, or I'm sorry, Jesus says she has had 5 husbands, referring to the woman at the well, right? Clearly he denies the indissolubility of marriage. Why are we putting up with this? I don't see how this man can be the Messiah. Right? It's tongue in cheek. It's kind of a joke, but then it's not, because it's kind of true. It's interesting how the critics just don't see that they're on the wrong side of this. Whereas Pope Francis and Fernandez seem to be on the side of our Lord Jesus Christ in this whole affair. Look at this response. This was from another interview from Fernandez. And, he was asked about this recent hit piece. And they, that the critics engaged him. And they asked, have you discussed these attacks and criticisms with Pope Francis? He says yes, because he had already told him, hey, they're probably going to attempt to smear my name, so just be aware of this book. So Pope Francis already knew in advance. Pope Francis tells him yes, but he considers them purifications from God to allow us to better and more humbly fulfill the task that the Lord entrusts. Now, I want you to think about it for a moment. So there's one group that is literally the Catholic magisterium teaching with the voice of Jesus Christ and his authority, who is being smeared and attacked. And you know what? They take those attacks and they receive them as moments for sanctification. There's that side. Then there's the other side that is fighting against the magisterium that has the voice of Jesus Christ on earth today and is attempting to smear anybody who exercises that authority. They make threats and they engage in these orchestrated campaigns to smear one's name. Look, if it's not clear who is doing the work of our Lord and who is doing the work of Satan at this point, I don't have anything else for you. I can't help you if it's not clear at this point. But I wanted to bring this to your attention because, again, we didn't hear anything about this in Catholic news, did we? Or for your usual content creators. We didn't hear anything about this. Why is that? But again, if it had gone the other way, this is all we would have heard about. So-and-so is being threatened. Oh, look at them engaging in this smear campaign. They're just trying to, engage in detraction, and they're just trying to discredit them because they speak the truth, blah, blah, blah. It's interesting the way this works, the double standard. Hey, hit that like button and the subscribe button. Be sure to comment, but let me remind you this. I don't want to hear, anything in the comment section that is no better than what the critics are doing. Keep that in mind. Let's keep it charitable. Let's keep it civil. Let's not engage in the same kind of behavior that the critics are engaging in. That's a reminder for the comment section. Let me grab this here. Thank you, Thomas, for gifting that membership. Zachary, main criticism is the book isn't in Latin. Well, there's that. I mean, hey, I joined in with that criticism. I like Latin. So, yeah, I'm in favor of that one. So anyways, again, hit that subscribe button. Help me reach people with content that they're likely not hearing from other places. So if you've appreciated Reason and Theology and you've benefited from the content, hey, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It'll not only notify you whenever I go live and have more content, but also, again, helps me reach more people. So do that, like button, and comment, but keep it charitable, keep it civil. All right, I'll see y'all soon with another stream here in just a little bit. God bless. Are you a Catholic thinking about converting to Eastern Orthodoxy? Or are you a Protestant discerning whether or not to become Catholic or Eastern Orthodox? If so, I have the book just for you. It's called Answering Orthodoxy. It engages all of the arguments that Eastern Orthodox use against the Catholic Church. I respond to all of them. I show that they are in error, and in fact, they're inconsistent, because the things that Orthodox are objecting to are in fact found in their own tradition. So the fullness of the faith can only be found in the Catholic Church. Check out the book right now at shop.catholic.com for your copy today.